Welcome to the Huddle and Whistle Show, where sports meets culture and the conversation always goes deeper. We are former athletes, coaches, parents, and insiders bringing you high IQ sports talk you can't get anywhere else. Follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss a beat. Let's huddle up and blow the whistle. We are on. Welcome back to another episode of Huddle and Whistle. Last week we talked about MJ. There was a lot of controversy. Somebody actually said that we were being MJ haters. I just want to make this point. That is not true. We actually love MJ. However, the numbers don't lie. That's a different era of basketball than what we have today. And you just have to expect that some people are just going to believe whatever they see, and other people, kind of use stats. So today we are going to have a very interesting show, and we're going to talk about why coaches hate your kid. While that may not be the proper word, because of course a coach wouldn't hate your kid. However, we all know, if you've played sports, been around sports, AAU, youth basketball, youth football, you name it, there are always those kids that somehow seem like they're just not the coach's favorite. So we're going to jump right into that today. Again, welcome to Huddle and Whistle. This is episode 2, and let's go. Why might a coach seem to hate your kid?
I'm speaking from a perspective of coaching football for over 25 years, from the youth level, high school level, did some time with college, and it seems like parents have this misconception that their child should have equal access to the ball. Like, traditionally, there was an evolution. Like, you were freshman to senior, you learned the game, then you learned the role, then you became ball dominant, right? And then, there's just like this disconnect that your kid has actually put in the work in practice and shown that he should have the ball, right? And the reality of it is, sir, all kids just aren't created equal. Like, their skill sets just aren't created equal. And at the end of the day, it just seems like all parents believe their kids should have the same amount of shots as Steph Curry. And that's just not the reality of it. Your kid just wasn't built that way, And so, they get upset about it, but hey, man, that's just the reality. All kids not created equal.
Yeah, I agree with everything.
Are you being mean about it? Why would a parent actually feel like you hate their kid?
It's not that they don't believe that you hate their kid, but they believe that you hating on their kids. Like, you denying their kid the opportunity. Like, my kid should have a certain amount of touches. And so, for example, it might be blowout time and their kid gets in and they score a touchdown, right? And the parent automatically say, see, they should have been throwing you the ball. He should have been had it. Well, it's a different time in the game. The defense has shifted and focused on the primary players. We slipped your kid in there, made a play for him. That don't mean that he can handle being a number one option. That just means that he was the best option in the fourth quarter when it was 50-0. So that's a different scenario. But you can't convince that kid, the parent, that the coaches hate, man. See, they should have been playing. I told him they should have been playing. So I don't know what you do with that. I really don't know what you do with that.
Yeah, I agree with everything Terry is saying. But a lot of times the reason why the coaches hating on your kid is because of you. You in the stands, you calling them coaches stupid, you saying all type of stuff. Like, the coaches got family members and friends in the stands too.
Yeah,
they know what kid is saying what. So a lot of times that information get right back to the coach. And how do you think that coach gonna feel? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking bad about, he don't know what he's doing. He a Pop Warner coach. I've had that happen as a coach at the high school level, where you got parents in the stands. And I never took it personal, because I understand that parents, part of your kid shining is a brag for you. Like, my kid scored 10 touchdowns. They bragging more than what the kid is bragging. And sometimes that rubs the coach the wrong way. It rubs the other players the wrong way. It rubs the culture of your team the wrong way. So now you have kids having animosity towards this kid, and then you got to humble them because their parents have made them all the way up there. So you're not hating them. What you're trying to do is save the culture of your team, the culture of your program. Because what they say, one rotten apple can spoil the bunch. And you start getting too much of that in there, or parents coming in and saying, "Coach, you should do this, or you should run that," or that parent or that coach is really getting mad at that parent. So they're not being mad at the kid per se. They just tired of the parent running a yap. So in order to keep this parent from either running a yap, they might do it the wrong way. I'm gonna bench this kid. I'm gonna prove a point. I don't need your kid. Or they take that anger out on that kid, like he dropped a pass in practice. That's why I don't get you the ball. That's why you don't get all the playing time you need. So a lot of times it's the parents and the culture of being that sideline coach or that in the stands coach, as we call them, the armchair coaches when you're watching the game at home. But that is one of the reasons why coaches will hate on the kid, or they will not give the kid all the shine that they need, because they're tired of this parent gaslighting them in the stands or gaslighting them around the program and making them look bad, because people here, and don't let it be a parent that has any type of playing experience or coaching experience. You never know what administrator is listening. You never know what's going on. What you think we should do. Next thing you know, some administrators walking a parent down. He should be an assistant coach, just messing up the whole flow. So that's why a lot of these coaches, they are very cautious sometimes with kids, unless you're just a superstar. And if you're a superstar, they don't care what your parents are saying and what they're doing. But a lot of times the hate, or the hating, as Terry said, the hating on your kid comes because of how you're acting in the stands or around the facilities and doing things like that.
So, like to follow up with that, right? I've had the privilege of coaching with some phenomenal coaches. Like one of the coaches that I coached with recently is a high school program that they've been to 5 state championships in like the last 7 years, right? They're just on that level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as an experienced coach, we always sit back and laugh, and we had this saying that the stands is undefeated. Like you cannot beat the stands no matter what you do. So you have somebody that this coach that'll just go, you know what? I'm not going to allow parents in my practice. You can't come watch practice. You have to stand outside the gate. You can't even be in a parking lot when we practice, right? And so they just kind of tune it out, because they understand, like, hey, man, it's just the territory that comes with it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but it just cuts off the engagement with the parent. And so now, where you would normally be able to have a regular conversation with a coach after practice, the coach just kind of tunes you out, and now everything is just directed to the head coach. So even if your kid has a position coach, you really don't talk to the position coach much, because things just get filtered to the head coach just to keep the tension down. And they're usually the ambassador for the program. And so, unfortunately, it's just the communication gets severed. And so sometimes that can be interpreted like somebody really does hate your kid. They don't hate your kid, but it's just, they don't want to deal with your parent. I'll tell you that much.
So you mean to tell me that there's never been a time that a kid made you, let's not call it hate, so annoyed that you just, go sit down, go sit on the bench, and you just did not put that kid back in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure we're on the same page, because I'm like, I wouldn't say I hate the kid. However, again, back to what you guys were saying earlier, there are sometimes those parental influences, and you've got this kid that maybe they're at an age where the parent and coaches have said, I expect for them to advocate for themselves, but they don't really understand coaching or even team dynamics or what you're trying to build as a program. And they come to you and they're like, well, I'm better than so-and-so and they get more playing time than me. And trying to explain those type of things sometimes to a kid, even, on the 10th time, it's not always something that they really comprehend. And so, I can imagine that might be somewhat frustrating from a coaching perspective as well, even if it's a coach's job or our job or whomever's job it is to make those explanations. My daughter's practices were closed. I was not allowed to watch her practice. I wish I could, because I definitely couldn't understand sometimes why she was watching the game instead of not in it. But I also know my daughter, and I don't know her behavior, so to speak, in practice. And it's something that I work on with her all the time about, just being a better teammate, not being mad or being pouty or all those type of things that I really believe if a parent has no knowledge of team sports or has never coached or tried to build a culture in sports would even understand. And again, everything goes back to the parents, right? If you can't explain to your kid that, okay, maybe it's not your skill, maybe it's the energy that you bring on the court because you've been pouting for the last 30 minutes because you didn't start today. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic.
I don't know. I think like if you want to upset a coach, do something that you weren't coached to do. If you want to infuriate a coach, do something he told you not to do. Like I specifically told you don't do that. But the kid is listening to some other outside force, whether it be a parent or trainer, or something that they saw on
Go for
TV.
the touchdown.
And so it's like, man, I told you don't do that. And they go out and do it anyway. Now you sitting down. Like it's no conversation, it's nothing over. But the parent will have a hard time understanding the technical aspect of it or the technique behind it or the reasoning behind it. And they just hear, oh, you don't like my kid, somebody else made a mistake, but it's like, no, he didn't make that mistake. Like I specifically talked to your son about that mistake and he did it anyway. So you know what? Sit down.
Yeah. And another thing that can get, at least for me as a coach in a doghouse, how you carry yourself off the field, the things that you're doing off the field that can be detrimental to our team. I always preach to the kids, man, the things that you do when we're not looking can come back and haunt us. Being a high school coach, I had a kid who got into a fight. We're in the middle of practice and some kids came to our practice to fight. And I had to tell these kids like, hey, this is a football team. All of them gonna jump on y'all. Y'all know that, right? It's 5 of y'all. It's 40 something of them. Don't do that. Because next thing you know, what if those kids come with a gun? Because they're thinking they're gonna get jumped on by 40 kids.
Exactly.
And then another thing, like your effort in practice, or as I tell my son, your perceived effort in practice. You can go out there and be killing in practice, but if you're not that hype guy, that rah-rah guy, look at me, look what I just did in practice. Sometimes coaches be like, oh, he's just good, but he ain't got no passion. Or you know what, he ain't really invested in this. And they look at you in a different way. When you got a guy who, he ain't gonna make that play, but he died for the ball anyway. Or he yelling and screaming, look at me. I'm sometimes coaches love that because they feel like that kid they have that passion and energy. Because I know I had to suffer from that. I wasn't a big rah-rah guy. And I just remember one time in practice at UCLA, I'm killing this practice, but it's practice. I don't really care. Those stats don't matter. The coach said, hey, you got to get better effort. I'm like, what you mean get better effort? It's called 3 touchdown passes in one drill. What are you talking about? He was like, nah. And then the kid, one of our players, teammates, dove for a ball, missed the ball by 2 yards, but he dove. He's like, that's the type of effort I'm talking about. I'm like, coach, he didn't make the play. he didn't even make the play. You want that? Like, I can do that, but I'm not about to dive on the ground and practice, probably dislocate my shoulder or, get hurt. And now I ain't ready for the game. So sometimes it's that perceived effort or the perception. As I tell kids, your perception can become your reality. If people don't feel that you care or give enough effort, or you just that dog, even though you probably are, you're just going to be seen in a certain light.
Yeah, that perception is it's a very interesting one because I think, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, parents, coaches, they forget that, at the end of the day, everybody's human and our perceptions are not always fact. But we have a tendency to rely and respond based on that perception. And I know someone right now that, is perceived to be a certain type of, I guess, parent, right? Because they do have coaching experience. And in my experience with that person, like they are totally not coaching on the bench. They're cheering, they're being a parent, they're being frustrated just like any other parent, whether their kid makes a mistake or, someone else on the team. Like, we all sit back there sometimes like, what are you doing? What was that? Because, we don't play anymore, but we still have this passion for it as well. And it's very hard to sit there sometimes and be silent. But I think the perception is that, maybe we're passing judgment. Maybe we don't think the coach is doing a good job, or maybe we thought the coach made a bad sub, or he should have done, or she should have done something different or better. And I really think that sometimes that perception can probably be cleared up. I don't know how somebody would clear that up. How could a parent fix that perception if they know that they have a certain level of energy, let's say on the bench, that the coach may perceive as a challenge? Like, how could a parent even go about, fixing that?
Jim, I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, well, one of the things I do, especially when it comes to football or track and field, I don't even mention that I played or I ran or did any of those things, because sometimes once the coach start probing into who you are, they start feeling intimidated by it. So I try to stay as far back as I possibly can. I'll talk with the coach. Hey, how can I improve my son? What is it that you're looking for? And those are the times that how you can change that. Hey, coach, what can I work with my kid when we're not here to make him be better in your system? Because we also got to understand there are systems. Your kid might not fit in a certain system. He's a certain type of player, or she's a certain type of player that doesn't fit this system. And an honest coach, you'd be like, hey, you know what? You should send them there. They'll fit in this system a little bit better. But sometimes coaches want to hoard the talent. So they're like, oh, well, let them do this, let them do that. So I always, as a parent, I don't even talk about what I did, who I am, or what any of those type of things. Because they'd be like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, I remember you. That can become intimidating for a coach, because they're going to be looking to see what you're saying about them or what you're saying about their program. I try to do my best to grit my teeth and not say nothing in the stands. Like I said, they're friends, they're family members. Anybody could be another parent who'd be like, he talking bad about you, coach.
Right.
Doing those type of things. So I try my best to be silent. I get disappointed when any kid makes a bad play. I don't talk bad about another parent's kid or anything like that. Or be like, man, what are they doing out there? Because I know, shoot, you probably called a play and the play would have worked, except one person made a mistake and now the whole play is thrown off. So now everything looks bad. So I always do my best to just kind of sit back when I get a chance. It's always just me and the coach, never any other people that's around to hear anything. So I can be like, hey, coach, what can I do? Because I don't want to feel like I'm gaslighting them or making them look bad in front of other parents. So a lot of times the parents, is about the tactfulness of how you approach that coach and the things that you're saying in the stands.
No, I agree with you, Jim, because I just think about it's just the relationship and the communication that you have with the coach. And, in fairness to parents, coaches make mistakes, right? And parents may not know this because it might not always be apparent, but coaches have knocked down, drag out, fist fight meetings about why certain decisions were made, right? And so, they don't agree. They're like, coach, I don't like what you call. Why are we doing this? And so whatever you highlighted as a parent, 90% of the time it's been addressed within the coaching staff at a much higher level and a much more intense level. So it's not that you're saying something that the coach is just totally oblivious to, a lot of times, especially when you have a staff. If you got one coach coaching in like a small team or something like that, that might be a little bit different. But I'm talking about when you actually have a staff. But my suggestion would be that the parent should have a conversation with the coach more about the technical aspect of the game, right? Or the schematic aspect of the game. And so I really enjoy and appreciate passionate parents, because you need a kid with some heart, like my best football players were the mothers that had heart. Like the mothers was hard. It wasn't the dad, it was the mama, right? You got a mama that's hard, that kid gonna be tough. Like that's what you need. That's a dog, right?
We hope.
And so most of the time, like, it's a connection. Like when you go look back at those players who were the toughest players, they had a tough mama. Their mama didn't play. And so, but this is my suggestion that I think now I'm seeing is starting to be a lot of, what attention is coming in. The parent hires a trainer, right? And the parent becomes financially invested in the kid, but the parent did not do their due diligence on the trainer. So that trainer might be an NFL player or ex-NBA player, but they never actually coached kids, right? And so the parents think, oh, this person has instant credibility because they played in the NFL, and they said 25 of my players have gotten offers, 25 of the kids that I trained, but they weren't 25 kids that you coached. There were 25 kids that might have came and worked out with you, that might came from another program who had all the 25 offers. So they had the 25 offers before they got to you. You just worked them out, right? And so the conflict comes when that trainer teaches a different technique than that coach, right? And I think the best example I could give is Deion Sanders, right? When you backpedal and you come out of a break as a cornerback, there's two philosophies. One is kind of like a bicycle. Your feet just rotate back, right? And there's other one that's called a T-step, where you turn laterally and then you push and you lunge forward, right? Hall of Fame cornerbacks and have been learning the T-step since the beginning of time. Deion Sanders despises it. He hates it, right? He refuses to do it. Now, if you get in that game and you T-step, Deion is going to be upset. If you T-step and get beat, he going through the roof. Like, you can forget it, right? And so you got to make sure that your trainer actually was a coach, and that trainer should probably have a conversation with the coach and say, hey, what are you working on? How do I improve this? What are the things that we reinforce, so that the kid doesn't get in the game and do something that the coach totally disagrees with, right? So, you know, I do think now with the evolution of sports and trainers coming into it, parents need to ensure that the trainer contacts the coach, because that coach is not going to reach out to the trainer because you don't even know who you hired a lot of times, right? So make sure that whoever you hire, that trainer talks to the coach and say, hey, what scheme are you running? What techniques are you running? What do you want me to reinforce with this kid? And now the conversation will be natural between the parent and the coach, right? And so now you have that, so you can talk about anything at that point, you know, because you guys are all invested collectively.
I just don't see a trainer being that forthcoming to contact a coach. I think at the end of the day, it's probably a job for them. I mean, do they care that much? Again, I can't, you know, speak on it one way or the other, but I can assure you, you know, for the most part, anybody that's trained my daughter, although it's not for football, and maybe football and basketball or football and volleyball trainers are not, you know, created equal. But I don't think anybody that's ever trained my daughter even had the mindset and say, let me contact the coach and see what I should be working on.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever asked the trainer to contact the coach?
No, I have not.
And so I think that's just the difference, because the trainer wants to get paid, right? And they understand what the issues are. And if you go to the trainer and just say, hey, I want to hire you, but I really would think it might be best or prudent to just contact the coach so the coach can tell you what my child needs to work on. Like,
I've had conversations with the coach, and I have asked what my child needs to work on, and then I relay that information to the trainer. But again, maybe it's a little bit different because in football, you're talking a lot more technical. Like, you're talking about certain ways of running and pivoting and bicycle versus T-step. In volleyball, I think it's a little bit different because there aren't like plays, so to speak, that you would necessarily get trained on. It's mostly like hitting techniques and footwork, which is kind of standard.
Well, I mean, I just think the trainers, I know a few trainers, and I've never had them have a problem talking to a coach, but nobody really just ever asked them to. You know, just ask them, just say, hey, can you call Coach so-and-so so that we're all on the same page in terms of what the priority is in terms of this training, you know, for the next 6 weeks. And I'm sure they'll be like, yeah, it's cool, because the trainer wants those kids.
Right.
So now if you become the trainer for that program, that's just a pipeline of money that comes in. So,
I agree with Terry on these things, but also trainers have to be truthful with what they're doing. My cousin wanted me to work his son out one time, and you have to know what you're looking at for specific programs. I went out there, I said, let me see some of your stuff. I had him run a couple of routes. And then I was like, hey, you know what? His coach got him right, because this is obviously the things that they're teaching in their system.
Right.
I'm not going to not try to change any of that. That's correct for what they're doing. I'm just seeing how he run his routes, because I already know, okay, they run this type of spread offense where they're doing these motions and they're doing these cuts when they're making their certain routes, when they're breaking their routes. I can double down on that, but I don't need to, because he already knows that. You know, we'll just be out here just wasting our time. He's just getting extra reps out here. What he needs to be out here doing is working with his quarterback now. Call his quarterback on the weekend. Say, hey, man, you want to throw? That's how it's going to get you more burn and more run. Because guess who's advocating for you now? Your quarterback. Hey, man, can get old boy out here. We've been working. He got it, coach. Because that's who he's going to feel comfortable with. So sometimes a trainer, like Terry said, you're a client. They want that money. Man, be truthful, man. I can't really help your kid. I can't teach that technique, or I'm not good at teaching that technique. I'm willing to go learn so I can try to help. But sometimes you just got to be truthful. Hey, man, look, that dude, his stuff is crisp. He got that. He don't really need more work except for going working with his teammates now. He don't really need me. And then sometimes trainers, but once again, that's how a lot of them get paid. It's their business, it's their job. So they're going to want that money, whether they're teaching your kid anything that's going to elevate their skill level or elevate them as a player. But also, those trainers got to breathe life into those kids, because you can teach them all the technique, but if that kid don't have confidence in themselves, even though they got all this technique, but you just taught them, you just took money and you letting that kid go out there and swim. Sometimes it's the mentality of that thing. We don't have enough training for that. This is the mentality you need to have in order to be good at this. You know, even if it's just being a role player, this is the mentality you need to have. Robert Ory. That's all I can say. Robert Ory, great at what he did.
Yeah. You know, interesting question for you guys. I can't wait to hear the responses for this. Why would one player on a team have a much shorter leash than another player who may be, let's say, equally yoked in terms of their play? But one player A makes a mistake, gets subbed out. Player B can make that mistake 10 times and stay in. What is the coach's mentality on that, and why do you think it happens? Or if you've ever done it, why have you done that?
Because your mama fine. Man, yo, I'm fine.
That cannot be the right answer.
Well, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you, all right, this is one extreme. All right, this is extreme left, and I'm gonna follow up with Jim. And I kind of think about it in this context. Whether it be an AAU coach, a youth football coach, or Samson in the Bible, right? They all got the same kryptonite. It's that sundress. When that sundress come walking across there, right? The refs see you, the coaches see you, the parents see you. That is a real factor. I'm just telling you.
Sundresses to the game.
Sundress season out there for some of these sports. So that is one extreme. But on a more serious extreme, right? I do think it comes down to trust, right? That person made a mistake, but I trust this kid because I've seen him put in the work. I've seen him take this shot 1,000 times. You know, so if he makes a mistake on a play or gets lost in stuff or something, that kid normally is the one that's calling out the play, that's calling out the defense. So it's just a higher level of trust because that kid put in the work, or I've seen them do it 1,000,000 times, you know. And so, you know, coaching, sometimes it's an energy, it's a feeling, you know, it's just who do you believe in? And it comes down to trust. It comes down to trust. And for some coaches, it comes down to the sundress. It's just the reality of what it is. Sundress. That's what gets you.
I don't think sundress is going to work, you know, with my daughter's team. I don't think that's going to be an option for me. But I'm just trying to see how that happens and if there's any way that can be repaired. How does a kid have a coach or make a coach trust them outside of practice? This kid puts in, you know, a lot of energy, a lot of work in practice. They show up to practice, right? And they still don't necessarily get that coach's trust.
Yeah, to kick it to a higher level with what Terry's saying, it's the intentionality of the mistake that you made. Sometimes you can be wrong and be right at the same time. Like, oh, I made the wrong block, but that block actually sprung that person, you know, because now the coach got to have that conversation with you. Hey, why did you block that guy instead of that guy? Man, coach, that dude over there weak. He ain't making no tackles. But if I block that dude, who's gonna make. He didn't already had 10 tackles today. You know, if I block that dude, then ain't nobody else making a tackle. So now my back is gone. So it's intentionality of the mistakes that you make. Because sometimes a player, you know, and I'm quite sure all of us have been athletes. We know, like, hey man, you know what? If I do this instead of that on this play, this is gonna work. Your intentionality of that mistake. So yeah, you made that mistake, and the coach might be heated at you, man. Why did you do that? Then he watched the film and go, oh, I see why he did that. And that's where, like Terry said, the trust come in. I trusted this player. He's not only just thinking out there on the field, he's willing to go, I'm going to take this risk right now because this is what's going to make this play break, or it's going to set something else up because they're going to see me do this. He going to like, oh, they running that play again. We totally ran a whole different play. And now my teammate is breaking for a long run, or my teammate came off the screen and hit this shot because you're thinking I'm cutting to the basket just to be cutting to the basket. Actually, I'm setting this screen so he can get free and hit this shot. So sometimes it's the intentionality of that mistake. And sometimes coaches understand that kid is out there. He's thinking. He's just another coach on the field. Like, yeah, he might make, 2 mistakes out of every 10 times we run something. But those mistakes are based on something that he's seen as a player. And I know as a coach, sometimes you got to put your ego aside. I would tell my quarterbacks, especially my quarterbacks, bro, if you see something, change the play. You know how to audible, the plays. I'm seeing it from the sideline. You're looking at it right there in real time, right in your face. You
that's
see something,
trust.
Call it. Yep. And that's a trust of it. Now, if he makes a mistake, hey man, what did you see? Because you already trust that player. While the other player, hey man, what you do? Why you run that route? Because coach, if I ran a streak on this, I was gonna be open. But that ain't the play. Now the quarterback don't know where you're at, and he's throwing to a spot that you're supposed to be at. So you can't do that. So unless you and the quarterback have already talked that and established that, don't do that again. So yeah, that's the reason why, like Terry said, it's the trust, and I add the intentionality of these mistakes that these kids are making, or the players are making.
And sometimes too, and I've seen this a lot. Like I've seen this a lot at various levels, is that sometimes as a coach, you have to show a player more grace because you know what's going on with them off the field. Like, I know this kid is now homeless. I know this kid just lost his parent. I know this kid just lost their job. I know this kid is going through some different things. And so, this sport is what keeps them sane and what keeps them focused. And so sometimes they're just not all there that day, but, you have to be able to say to that kid, okay, don't worry about it. Just keep playing. It's cool, because you just know that they're not there, but the other parents and the other kids don't know. And so, at face value, it just kind of seems like you're playing favorites or you're allowing certain things. But sometimes as a coach, you really have to balance the off the field issues and pour into that kid, because that kid just really needs a hug. He's just there for a hug that day. His mind ain't there. You know what I mean? So sometimes that's a factor too.
Yes. One of the things that you said earlier, Terry, you were talking about how I believe it was you that said you were open to parents coming and talking to you, or maybe it was you, Jim. But there are a lot of coaches that despise having conversations with parents. They don't want to have those type of conversations as to why my kid's not playing or what can they do better. It's like they avoid it, by all means. So I don't even know if other sports are like this, because I don't think basketball was, to my knowledge. But like in volleyball, they have this rule where you can't even talk to the coach like 24 hours after the game. Is that something you guys share as well?
No, I always tell the parents when I have a parent meeting, hey, it's your kid. You should be invested in your kid, and you should be asking questions. And that's why you have a complete staff. It's been times where I didn't have no interaction in practice. I was just talking to parents, or my coaches were running the practice, because it's just like, hey, you need to have that investment in your kid. Your kid needs to see you invested in them as well. So, I don't mind you coming to practice. Now, you can't come up there cussing and fussing. Hey, coach, can I have a word with you? I will most definitely give a parent time, because who knows when that parent does have time? They're working. They probably got other kids and other things to go. I want to know the parent behind the kid as well. So I'm always open to having parents come talk to me. And that's why you build a good staff, not just a staff of guys. You build a good staff of people that you trust, people that that's going to be on the same page as you when it comes to that. I'll handle the parents. I'll handle that. You guys handle the football. You guys handle the basketball. Y'all handle all of that stuff. and I'll be that facilitator with administrators. I'll be that facilitator with the parents and do those things like that, because I have to understand that you are invested in your kid. I had a kid that got hurt. Parent wasn't even at the game. I spent the whole time at the hospital. And I asked the kid, where your parent? Oh, they probably at home watching TV. So they don't want to come on a Friday night to come see you play. They're just at home watching TV. I have to wait 3 hours for the parent to finally show up. I don't know what show they was watching. It's been a really good show, but I stayed at the hospital with that kid for 3 hours. So I want the parents to feel comfortable enough to go, hey, coach, what's going on with my kid? Or, some parents don't even want their kids to play. Coach, can you convince me why my kid should be out here playing?
Right.
So I don't mind.
And I also think it's the level at which they play that also differentiate the level of interaction between the parent, all the way through high school. Parents, definitely communicate with coaches. They can have a parent meeting. They can ask for a personal meeting. They can come talk to them at different times. And, I don't know a high school coach that has ever said, I'm not talking to your parent. Like they will have a conversation. They may not keep talking to them, but they will give them, a few initial conversations, right?
Right.
College, not so much, not so much. They don't really have no time for your parents, right? But I also think that it's a regional thing too. So in California, you recruit the kid. Down south, you recruit the parent, because the parents tell their kids where they going to school down south, right? Mm-hmm. In California, a kid will say, no, I'm choosing this school. This is where I'm going. So it's a total different dynamic, and so, Californians, they really do empower their kids to make choices and stuff like that. And so that's also a different dynamic, because just some of those Southern roots and values and stuff like that, those things matter. Like you'll never get a kid from down south to come to your school if the parent or his uncle or somebody in that family don't sign off on you. Like you have to have that. So they maintain those relationships during college. And, you won't get another player from that town if you don't have a positive relationship with that parent. They just not going to send them to you,
Yep.
And so your parent is your best recruiting tool, because that mother needs to talk to another mother and be like, yeah, he took care of my boy when I sent him out there. That's 2,000 miles away. So it depends on the level that the kid is at, that in terms of the interaction with the parent.
I can't wait to get back into coaching. I
remember you said that.
Okay.
I'm serious.
It's changed.
I really feel like that. I feel like the relationship between parents and coaches are so important. And I've been around a lot of coaches that just don't really seem to connect with the parents. And all the teams that my daughter's been fortunate to play on, the parents are really involved. And so it's kind of disheartening when you don't have that connection that I think a lot of the parents want, because we end up hanging out together. You invite the coach and you want to feel like this is a family. You want to feel like they care as much for your kid and their future as you do, because it's just important to me. And I feel like if a parent is spending all of their free weekends, driving hours to these games and, making sure they're at practice and being on time, they kind of deserve that relationship. They deserve to be let in. And that's just my take on it. So I can't wait to get back into it so that I can make that happen.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't care how far you drive. Absolutely not. If you are a parent, when you say involved, right?
Yes.
If you want to be involved with the road trip and the scheduling and the food,
no.
If you want to coach,
no.
If you want to be a parent, if you want to coach,
relationships, there, relationship with the coach. I don't want to be on the bench with the coach.
No. That's where the problem lies, because you're going to talk about the game. You're going to talk about aspects of the game. Parents cannot help but talk about the game and what happened, right? It's just you can't help it, right? So if you're gonna coach, then you come on here, you get a whistle, you come down here to practice, you come down here and do these game plans, you come down here and watch film, you come down here and break down the opposing team. So if you want to have an expert opinion about what we're doing and why we're doing it, then I'm gonna give you a huddle account, and you can log on and you can watch 5 hours of film on this scouting report. You can put in the game plan. You can spend 8 hours Monday through Thursday with this kid, and you can have all the opinions you want on Saturday.
Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit deeper, because maybe this is the disconnect, right? Because when I talk about having a relationship with a coach, I don't want to talk about the game. What I do want to know is that how my kid plays and how they feel is as important to them as it is to me. We could literally be talking about anything else, but the fact that they are there and that they are a part of our culture, because it is kind of a culture in the stands and on the bench, right? We all get along, we're vibing. When we go and hang out after the game, we're not talking about the game, because some people's kids sucked and some people's kids didn't. So why would we be sitting there talking about how my child did really well and your child sucked?
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
I get what you're saying, Marlo, but also you gotta when you having these building these parent relationships, like I always try to find one parent to really engage.
Yeah.
Because that one parent can get all the other parents on board, because they see how that parent is working. Even if that parent kid ain't playing that much and stuff like that, sometimes that parent becomes a parent of other kids who parents aren't there. Their parents are never there. So you get those parents involved in that aspect, they'll sometimes filter some of the bad interactions that you will have, because they'll be like, hey, look, where you been? This is your first game. We didn't have 5 games. Why you here talking when you ain't been here? You don't know what coach is doing with these kids. You know how much money coach is putting in your kid's stomach. You know what I'm saying? Because your kid eats and we all feeding your kid. But now you here with an opinion and with this and this and that. So sometimes the more positive interactions is not that you have this whole parent group. You get that one parent that's kind of like the lead parent. And that parent will let other parents know this is the culture of how things are being done. Can that backfire? Sometimes it can. But a lot of times that parent who's helped facilitate the culture of what you're trying to do, because they see your vision, it works miracles. It works wonders. My quarterback this year, I let her dad be on the sideline every game, because the kids were like, when he's there, he's encouraging, he's pumping them up. Even when I'm yelling at his daughter for throwing a pick six or yelling at her because she went on her own tangent and did something else, he's pumping the other players up. He's being coach dad. And those parents are the best parents to have. So I get that you want that in there. That is the perfect interaction, but it's not going to always be that way.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, not you, Barry.
Hey,
Absolutely not.
I don't know what to tell you.
Right? You see a parent come, you're like, oh dang, here comes he shines, but mother.
Smelling like Henny right now. Oh God, here they come.
Oh, here they come. Oh man, I'm coming to say good game, coach, even when we lost. That's what I'm coming to say. But again, I think I have a different understanding of the whole coaching style. Even if I don't agree with what the coach is doing or has done, I kind of keep it to myself, because again, like Jim said earlier, I don't really know what they worked on in practice or what was supposed to happen. All I know is my child is upset, but that's okay, because for me, it's a life lesson for her. Everything's not going to go your way. You're not going to always get everything that you think you deserve. That's just a part of life. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of parents take the life lesson aspect into coaching like they probably should. But I definitely can say that I don't think my daughter's ever had a horrible coach or a bad coach, whether I didn't agree with a play or move or a call or whatever. It doesn't make them a bad coach or even a bad person. So I'm grateful for all of them. But I do still, Terry, wish that, the relationship was a little bit more connected, even if it's not about discussing sports.
What would that relationship look like? What would be the ideal relationship?
Well, so there's really no one right answer, but I'll give you a couple of examples, right? When I said that the other parents and myself included, we get together, right? We're celebrating these kids because they work hard. Again, win or loss, they worked hard. So when we're saying, hey, after the game, we're going to go take them to, I don't know, Canes seems like the popular spot where everybody wants to go now. We're going to take them to Canes and we invite the coach. I expect that even though inside they probably don't want to go, that they stop by for 10 minutes just to say, you know, hey, thanks for working hard. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for driving 2 hours, you know, to get them here. Sorry we didn't win this time, but, you know, good job. Or if we did win, sit down and have some freaking nuggets and laugh with us. I mean, again, it's just, to me, it makes a better relationship, right? I understand you guys are busy. Some of you are annoyed because maybe you didn't get the outcome that you wanted or expected. But I think that sports teams work better when you have better relationships with parents.
Okay.
Well, it cushions the losing too, you know, because sometimes, you know, I've lost some games and I'm like, they were just better than us. Because the parents want this full explanation. Even the kids want a full, hey, look, they were better than us.
Yeah.
We did everything that we were supposed to do. They were just better.
Yeah.
Look, we won't play that team again. They're not on our schedule no more. So let's move on and not let this one defeat turn into another defeat because we're feeling bad about this. Sometimes a team is just better. And when you have that relationship built with especially with your players and their parents, you can say that and they'll be mad about it. Oh, coach, we could have did this. And then they go home and think about it like, yeah, that team was just better. Coach, right. Yeah. That we could have really done.
Yeah, but that brings in another point. You know, why are parents sometimes not realistic with their child's performance? You know, when my daughter makes a mistake, I'm the first person to let her know. Your hits were off today. Like, you need to work on your vertical. Like, I tell her the honest truth because I expect everybody else to lie to her because they're trying to protect her feelings. If she can't get the truth from me, then she's gonna be in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you brought up something earlier where you said there's a 24-hour rule where you can't talk to a coach after a game for 24 hours, right? And
actually, it might be 48. But go ahead.
That's a long time, though.
I'm telling you, it's crazy.
I think everybody needs their mental health protected because it's an emotional roller coaster during a game, and the coach has to come down, and they probably need time to watch the film to give you an honest assessment about what just happened versus an emotional assessment. Because once I go back and I'm able to watch the film, I can see exactly what went wrong. I can see what happened on that particular play versus just coming at it from memory. Because, you know, I do think that there's some merit to having a window of time before you interact with parents. You know, you have to deal with the team right after the game. But I don't know if I would be in the best headspace to talk right after the game and go eat with parents at that time, you know. And when I do press conferences for the NFL, what most head coaches do before they even come address the media, they will go shower after a game. They will go take their time. They'll go shower. They'll just let the water hit them, kind of decompress for a second, gather their thoughts, and then go out and just talk to the media who's, you know, asking them questions or something like that, because, you know, you do have to protect your own mental health. And I think you'll be a better version of yourself after you've had that window of opportunity to discuss it, you know.
Right. No,
probably not a good idea to talk right after a loss.
I actually agree with the rule, even though I don't like it for myself, but I have control over my emotions. I'm not, you'd have to like physically assault my child before I probably am going to have that much of opinion on how you coached, right? But I also understand that there are other people that, you know, are just a little bit unhinged and are just looking for an opportunity to jump down your throat. You know, they didn't like the play. Why'd you sub him or her out? So I totally understand the rule and for the most part agree with it. I think that it's still for our group, for example, having the knowledge that that rule is already in place, in my opinion, gives you even more reason to come chill with us afterwards. Because now everybody's relaxed. We know we can't talk to you about the game. We know we can't have a discussion. So that in itself should be a little bit more comforting to say, you know what, let me go show up for 10 minutes and let them know that I do support, you know, what they're trying to do and being, you know, here for everybody.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit different. I'd rather be addressed because during the course of a game, I'm always taking mental notes of where we made this mistake, why that mistake happened, if I can point it out right then and there. If I give a parent too much time to brew and think about it and think about it and think about it, they're not really being genuine about what just happened in that game. They could be bringing up something that happened 4 games ago as well. I want to be in this moment right now so I can tell you. Like I had a player one time, he was cramping really bad. Of course, in the stands, you can't see that. I could see this, so I pulled the kid out the game. Why your best player ain't in the game on 4th and 1? Because if I give him the ball and he cramped going through the hole, he could tear his muscle. Anything can happen. He could be lost for the season. So I made that choice. Like I'm not gonna jeopardize this kid. If we can't get 4th and 1 with the backup, then But the parent did not know that. He was raising this whole big brouhaha. And then people were like, hey, don't talk to the coach now. I said, no, let him come, let him ask his question. So we can get this, out of the way. And I said, to be truthful with you, we shouldn't even came down to 4-1. We made so many mistakes during the course of the game that we should have beat this team by 20, but now we're at 4-1 trying to win this game. So you were only looking at that play. There's a lot of other plays that were out there that was left. So this is, you break it down to a parent, kind of give them that ease, because I've had this happen. I just walked through the door and my phone is ringing. Hey, coach, why the fuck you do this? Why you do that? And I'm like, hey, man, look, bro, I'm about to sit here with my wife. My wife has been waiting for me to come home. I can have this conversation with you later because you could have approached me at the stadium. So once again, I'd much rather have that moment, except for this person keep getting riled up because they haven't had that access to me yet. But I'm like Marlo, I can keep my emotions in check because I'm already thinking about it. But I know other coaches, they'd be in a fist fight in the parking lot. Or, oh, you can call me when I just got home. Where you at? I'm about to meet you somewhere. You got to have this. You gonna throw hands. I'm not gonna do all of that. So, I get the rule, but also I'd rather have that fresh take. I'd rather have that because I know where I'm at in that game. I don't want to overthink it either.
Right. Makes sense. All right. Last question for you guys. Address the tension between a parent wanting their kid to shine and the overall success of the team, or what's best for the team. How does that, what does that do? There are a lot of parents that want to see their kids shine, and they definitely don't look at what's best for the team sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, you got to win, right? And I can't really worry about touches and stats and recruiting because a lot of parents and a lot of kids believe that they need to have a certain number of highlights, a certain number of catches or statistics or shots and all this stuff needs to get recruited. And so sometimes you have to have a realistic conversation with parents and just say, like, look, to get this kid out, this is what kind of things that he needs to perform on film. Like, this is what his film needs to show, and based upon this and my history of getting kids out, you're going to have to trust the process, and then sometimes some parents buy into it. And sometimes certain parents came to see their kid shoot the ball. They came to see their kid run the ball. And it's just nothing you could do about it, and fortunately, you just got to win. Winning solves a lot of problems. Like if you win, then, it's like, hey, I don't know what to tell you, parent. Like, like this is what we're doing. This is the culture that we're building. But if you losing, then, that's a different conversation too. So, I just think, sometimes you just have to have a realistic conversation with the parent about what it's going to take to get your kid out, and, if your kid wants more shots, this is what he needs to do. He has to do that.
The culture of every team is win first. You want to win above all else. But I always tell people I have the privilege. I don't coach an abundance of great talent. I don't coach a bunch of kids that's probably about to go D1 and stuff like that. So I already know what the parents are there for. If the parent is very realistic with it, I want to see my kid at least touch the ball a couple of times. I want to see the kid that my first year coaching had a kid. He really wasn't that talented. His parent was there every day, every practice, every game. He was our 2-point conversion kid. We always started off in the swinging gate. If the team didn't make it, through to him. He led the team in scoring because every time we scored, he got 2 points. So, and it made him so much better of a teammate because he knew his role. He didn't care if he got 20 carries. He didn't care if he, played 5 or 6 plays, because those 5 or 6 plays usually resulted in him running into the end zone for those 2 points. So,
nice.
I know that there are some parents, they could care less if we win or lose. They just want to see their kid play. I took this time off of work. I'm here. I want to see my kid get in the game, touch the ball. So I'm like, okay, I always have a play for certain kids, or I'm going to put this kid in certain situations so they can shine. Their parent going to see them. Now, do I really want to win this game? Oh, yes, I want to win this game, because winning makes everything look better. So I always try to find that fine balance of, these are the kids who parents just want to see them get in. I will get them in when it's feasible. And then there's these parents that they want to see us win so they can go brag at church on Sunday. My baby, we won 46. We did this, we did that. So you got to have that. You get that fine balance. So there's going to be kids that are going to play. There going to be a kid who shouldn't be playing that's going to start. They going to run out on the field. They parent go like, my baby a starter. Then they're not in the game no more. So, you got to get that pulse of that team as a coach and understand where it is. Because if you make it all about winning, you're going to be miserable. If you're not allowing the kids to enjoy their experience, to have something to brag about, to have something that they can go at school and be like, man, I saw you in the game. They in third period. I saw you in the game, man. You was balling. They don't know if you was balling or not, but you was out there doing something. And that's all that sometimes matters to those kids. So, it's tough with that fine line. I want every kid to enjoy it, because I was a teammate. I didn't really always care about what I did. I would love to see my teammates shine too. That made me feel so much better. And Marlo knows, and I was in high school, she saw me play, and as good as I could be, I just love seeing my teammates shine more. And I think that's what's missing in the culture of sports today. Everybody wants to be the person that shines, instead of seeing this dude that I've been to school with since the first grade. He's scoring, he's doing this and doing that, and that brings you more joy. So it's a little bit different when it comes to that. But yeah, there's going to be players and parents that just want to see their kid. There's some that's all about winning. So
I'm not going to lie. I feel really bad, especially in AAU, when parents pay for their child to be on this team and to play, and the kid never gets in the game. Like, I would be pissed. Now that would bother me. I feel really bad for those parents, honestly.
We were talking about that earlier. Sometimes that kid is actually paying for another kid. So yeah, they're not contributing. They're not contributing to court, but they are contributing, because their money is going for some kid that probably didn't even pay, that's getting all the playing time to be on that team.
That would ruin me. I don't know if I can continue to show up knowing my baby's.
You gotta find another team. You got to find the right AAU team. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Well, that's going to conclude this show. Thank you, guys. This was episode number 2 of Huddle and Whistle. Why coaches hate your kid. Make sure
we don't really hate them, though.
We hate on them, but we don't hate them.
Make sure you tune in for our next show. It's going to be great. I'm going to keep this one a secret, so maybe we'll announce it later. Maybe we won't. But thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to the Huddle and Whistle Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow sports fans. If you are a sponsor or a guest who wants to join us and bring your voice to the conversation, email us at info@marlonicoleproductions.com. Until next time, let's huddle up and blow the whistle.